You like
Yeah.
backgrounds? Backgrounds are good, huh?
Yes.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Also, I don't want you to see the mess behind me.
Well, I wish I could have a background like that too. I've got blurred.
Okay, Yitzhak, say hello.
Hi, Yitzchak.
All right, we ready? Let's
Yes.
start. We've got a very important subject tonight. Um, yeah, it's been going to be something that I think everybody really needs to understand, and I'm hoping that at least I can give the importance of the subject over the next 50 or so minutes, the core of the subject. Hey Yochanan, good to see you.
Hi.
This is a very important to see how we actually look at ourselves and who we truly are. I'm going to touch the surface because really the whole of Torah and particularly Chassidut is all about this concept, and it starts talking about it right at the beginning. So just a little story that I like when we talk about this concept. My favorite story on the subject about this one man. He's in the ancient bathhouse, and in the bathhouse he gets a little bit worried. He's like, there's all these people here, and I know who I am because I've got my clothes, and when I take off my clothes, how am I going to know who I am? How am I going to know which person is me? So he doesn't know what to do, and then he sees in the corner there's like a little red string. So he takes the red string and he ties it around his toe, and he says, I've got an idea now. When I see the red string, I'll know that that's me. Anyway, he goes into the bath, and he sits there, and half an hour later he comes out. Meantime, the red string has gone off and has floated onto the other guy that was sitting in the bath with him. And anyway, he walks out and he looks for the red string, and he says, I don't see the red string, I don't see the red string. He starts panicking, he starts looking for the red string everywhere. And then he sees this man busy getting dressed, and he has a red string around his toe, and he says, hey, I know who you are, but who am I? Sometimes we struggle to figure out who we are truly. And that type of joke, hopefully we don't struggle to the degree that we confuse our body with other people's bodies. But self-confusion is a really is probably what I would say is the biggest issue that we face in the world, trying to understand and to know who we really are. One of the greatest problems and issues that we face in our lives. What I mean is that we spend most of our lives trying to discover ourselves, and we almost get false ideas about who we are. And if only we were to have a better idea of who we are, we would be much more in tune with what we're doing here, with our mission, with our role in the world, and be much more successful. So I think it's a really important discussion, and we're going to look at a few texts that discuss it. Now, the reason why I thought of this discussion to talk about is for two reasons. Number one, because I started teaching a class in yeshiva. One period, I do 2 40-minute periods of Chassidut a week, and what I decided to teach them was something related to this, concepts from Tanya, the book of Tanya. That was the one reason why I thought of doing this. And the second reason why I thought of doing this is because on the Shabbat morning in the Shir this past week, we were running a bit late. So I decided to open a random chapter of Tanya because I didn't want to continue where we were up to and so to speak, what's the right word? Not do it justice. So I decided to give something else just for the few minutes that we had, and we opened to chapter 29 of Tanya. And my fear is that when you look at chapter 29 of Tanya, it could give us a very different idea of who we are. So I'm going to start off with chapter 29 of Tanya, and you'll see what I'm talking about. No, whoops, sorry, I shared the wrong screen. Okay. Oh, so I'm gonna make it a bit bigger. So over here in this chapter of Tanya, it talks about what happens when a person struggles to overcome their addictions and their issues, their anxieties, all their sadness and depression. They struggle to overcome it, and they keep on falling into the traps of doing negative things, the things that they don't want to be doing. So what does that person do? So he goes on to explain there's a particular way, which I'm not going to get into over there right now because that's not the topic of our discussion. But what I did want to discuss is he says the reason why it is that a person falls into such a situation. What's the reason why a person... And he says the way that we're going to overcome it is by sometimes you have to go beyond yourself and break that element of yourself that is causing you to act in that way. So it says like this, Hasibahi, what's the reason why a person has this deficiency? He says he agasis haklipa, it's the thickness or the arrogance of the klipa of the animal soul, shemagbia atzma al or kedushas nefesh elikis. It lifts itself up over the holiness of the light of the divine soul, and it darkens it. In other words, you have a godly soul, but there's something that covers it over it. And he says that's why you have to find times to actually do what's called find a leiv nishbar. You have to figure out a way to tell yourself this is not okay. I'm not going to get into that right now. He says that you're going to have a broken heart, and what that means is beyond our discussion right now. So why he says the next word that I do want to say, he says he asitracha, because you have to break the other side. You have to have these impure, the elements of yourself which are causing you to sin. You have to realize he ha'adam atzmei b'beinim. In regular people, this is the person. Now, that's what I brought in the Saturday, in the Shabbat Shiur. And he goes on to say that the Nefesh HaChayunit, the vital soul that gives vitality to the body, he betakwa ketoldosa belivoy, it's very strong. Nimtze hi ha'adam atzmei. That is the person himself. So what's the point that I want to show you? That it seems to be saying that who is a person? The person is the animal soul, the soul that keeps you alive. Don't get too distracted by the ideas. And then he goes on to say, in the beginning of Tanya, we spoke about two souls. We spoke about an animal soul and a godly soul. So who are you? Over here he says, you are your animal soul. But then he goes on to say, but the nefesh kiss, that other soul, which is the godly soul, that is neshama shenasata bi tahora bi, he says that was given to me. It's not me itself. Meaning that the person himself is not that pure soul, im b'tzadikim, except for tzadikim. So what does it sound like we're saying over here? That you are an animalistic drive, and you have a godly soul given to you. That's what it sounds like. But this is somewhat, if you take this just in context like this is somewhat of a deception. It's not truly the way we really are. So I want to stop for a moment, and I want to ask you a few questions in order to be able to answer my issues. So just to clarify to you what I'm going on about. I think I've been a little bit ambiguous tonight. What I'm going on about is I'm trying to figure out who you are. We have chapter 29 of Tanya that seems to imply that the person is an animalistic person. And I jumped straight into that because I wanted you to think that, oh, that's what, it kind of fits with certain ideologies that seem to imply that we are not necessarily holy people only, but we have animalistic elements to us, and that's our primary drives. That's why I'm bringing that to us. But now I really stop and I want you to think about this question for a moment, and feel free to answer if you want to. And I want you to think about for a moment, if somebody to say, tell me who you are, or describe yourself to me, how would you do it? Take 10 seconds and pretend you're writing it down. I, Mendel Heller, insert your name, this is who I am.
Bit of a trap, because you're asking us to box us into specific categories. So it's like me saying I'm good or I'm bad, but I can't box myself into that. I could be good, but I'm doing bad things sometimes. Or I could be bad, but I'm not. I'm just the person, but I'm doing bad things, or I've done a bad thing, or I do a good thing.
How would you describe yourself?
I don't know. I'm going to need more than 10 seconds for that, but I'm reluctant to box myself into certain categories.
Very good. But I would say that you would struggle with even 10 seconds.
Exactly.
So 10 seconds is not enough, but it's also way too much. Now, if I ask people this question, I've done this in the past, when I ask people this question, generally the reply that I get is, oh, I'm a teacher, I'm a lawyer, I'm an accountant, I'm a businessman, whatever people are doing. People usually, or they'll say, I'm a father if they're really, people will usually define themselves based on what they do. But they don't recognize that by that definition, which is a true definition in the sense it defines what you do, it's not who you are, it's what you do. It's what you're capable of doing. So it gets a lot harder when you ask people to say, define yourself, but not based on what you know and not based on what you do, just based on who you are. So I'm not asking what you do. I'm not asking what you know. I'm also not asking how you feel. I'm asking who you are. How would you answer that question?
I find what you ask, it's quite difficult actually when you put it in those terms. I don't know if I can define myself completely in 10 seconds, but I would like to say that I've always strived to do what I can. I'm not always saying I'm good. I'd like to think you're good, but we do bad things too. We're not perfect. And at the same time,
but
I've always...
I want to interrupt you for a second. You said for a moment, you said, I try to do what is good. You went back to
doing. That's right.
Right. So that was the exclusion. You can't talk about what you do. You have to talk about who you are, right? So that's the immediate assumption. It's going to go to what you do. That's where it gets difficult, because we often, and this is really important, and I find this particularly in relationships, I'll get into in a moment. This concept is really important when it comes to parenting and how we interact with our spouses and our family members. Do we look at them and we judge them and we share with them based on what they do or based on who they are? Right? And that's a real struggle.
I'll put it on silent.
That's a real struggle. So
I'm sorry interrupting. I always thought of myself as a family person. We've always worked hard for our family, our children, and we've, as a mother and father does always, but you should do. So in that respect, I see myself and sort of spiritual too.
You can say that's a trait. I don't know if it's who you are. You can say it's a trait that you have, or
A trait. Yeah.
or you strive towards that, but you can't really define yourself by
No.
by your ideals either.
I leave that for other people to say who I am. I don't like to say who I am. I don't know. Sometimes it's a struggle. Life is a struggle, but I leave that for other people to decide. Does that make sense?
So I want to interrupt you for a moment, and I'm going to share something with you, a video of the Rebbe which I really like. So I was looking for it. The only place I could find it is, I once did a class on this, and I find somebody else did a JLI course. So just bear with me a moment. See?
I'm not satisfied that only continuing. It's not to increase. Well, we'll be satisfied.
Sorry, were you able to see what I was showing?
Yes. Yeah.
I'm not satisfied that only continuing. It's not to increase. Well, we'll be satisfied if you continue. No, I am not satisfied. Not only about me. It's not about you also. Ja, wie viel die Betonne ich mich dann warten auf Nelle. Ich schreckt das nicht davon. So mein Teller sagen. Das ist ein Gemorre steht, wo das heißt, man hat am Morgen, wie man zweimal sehen. So ist es. Since he passed away, yes, there is no one that has taken his place.
It's true.
Then you are recording.
I built a mikveh in Woodmere.
He was not satisfied about your own mikveh. His was much more. Then they try at least the first 10. And God Almighty bless you.
Okay.
I'll give you $10 for the 10 mikvehs.
We met.
Columbus made time they got to write a book of memoirs about your grandmother.
Yes.
What happened to the book?
Well, I'm doing some things in that direction, which I'll inform you as it goes along.
It's you too long yet.
You're right.
You have much more other things to do after you finish that.
Okay.
May God Almighty bless you and good news. And use your time to do much more than you are doing till now. That's also a great deal.
Thank you. No, I said to people that this was a wonderful year of Baruch Hashem, but this was our greatest accomplishment of 1988. To be elected a senator was nice, but this was the best.
But don't be satisfied. It's only with you.
Okay, we both heard.
That depends more on you, probably.
You know that we're now providing from the UJA Federation campaign $250,000 a year to the Lubavitch school system, which is very important. This is new development. It's wonderful.
And you expect me to be satisfied about the quarter?
I'm not satisfied either.
We are not satisfied.
If you were satisfied, I'd be worried.
Yeah, you have no reason to be worried at all. I wrote to the Rebbe, I said, I'm just...
All right, you able to follow that video? One of my favorite videos. I'll get to the second video in a moment, which is also important. That's Rabbi Adin Steinsaltz. And it's interesting. I recently just spoke about the concept of Rabbi Adin Steinsaltz's video. Somebody asked me why I'm starting to teach. I seem so busy. Do you have the time? So I'll talk about it for a moment. But when you think of the Rebbe, the way he talks to these people, and he seems to keep on pushing them to do more, how would you feel when somebody asks you to do more when you feel like you're really trying your hardest?
Say that you can always do better. There's always there's always a way of pushing yourself more.
Sometimes it makes you feel a little bit. Sometimes when people do it, it makes you feel the opposite of good.
Yeah.
Right. Sometimes you feel like you're not. Yeah. What do you want to say now?
Yeah, exactly what you just said. Fed in Kaman. Give us a break.
Right. So
missed that, so I couldn't hear that.
I said sometimes when people do good and then people ask for more and say like, I'm not satisfied, I want more, or it sounds like they seem to, and generally that annoys people when people do that. So my question is, do you think that people that saw the first guy, when the Rebbe told him to buy 10 mikvahs, he seemed to go red in the face. The Rebbe said, he was like, oh boy, this is... But I don't think the Rebbe made these people feel bad. I think the Rebbe pushed them, and I think they felt pushed. But I don't think they felt as though they hadn't achieved, or that they weren't or that he was ungrateful.
No.
Usually when somebody, you know, if our spouse or a colleague or someone that we know says, you know, it's not enough or whatever, it seems not grateful, and that happens all the time. But how is it that the Rebbe is doing it and it's not a feeling of not feeling ungrateful? I'm going to quickly show the other video, and then we'll continue this discussion and show how it's all connected.
Overwhelmed by work. Except for all kinds of small things. I wrote to the Rebbe, I said, I'm just overwhelmed by work. Except for all kinds of small things. I'm involved in three major projects. And except for, I know dozens of smaller ones but the major projects that are more or less constant. And the point is, it is. I mean, I don't know if I wrote it, but I said it is overwhelming. And for that I got an answer. The answer was, so my main question was, what should I drop? I don't know that the three things that are important, each of them in a different level and different way. But it seems that they're too much for one person. So, and I have to be involved in a way personally, what to drop. And the main point of the answer was, you go on, you continue to do all these things, and try to do more things. That was really the last thing that the Rebbe, the last message that I had from the Rebbe.
All right. So the Rebbe over here tells him, you're too busy and you feel like you don't have time and you're not capable. Okay, so add more. Right? Did I speak about this on Shabbos? I may have spoken about this on Shabbos. This concept of where sometimes where you feel overwhelmed, the Rebbe pushed it. But the point is that I want to bring is, in order for us to understand ourselves, what it will help, it helps us understand what we're capable of. And what I'd like to think, and what I believe is that what the Rebbe was trying to show people is who they truly are. And these messages, and the Rebbe did it, the way he did it is he lifted people up and said, no, you have the ability to do much more than that. But why? Because he understood who they were. He saw their true essential being much more than they saw about themselves. Sorry. So let's look at another text, which is right at the beginning of Tanya, the first chapter of Tanya, and we'll try to contrast it with an understanding a bit about who we are. Okay, so over here we're now back in the Tanya, but now we're in chapter 1 of the Tanya. And the Tanya gives a whole introduction to who a person is. And then it goes on to tell us that no, the truth is that according to Kabbalah, he says, according to what the Arizal taught us, it was written by his student Reb Chaim Vital, that he says like this: the L'chol Ish Yisrael, every Jew, Echad Tzadik v'Echad Rasha yesh shtei neshamot. you have two neshamas, two souls. And he brings a verse that says, Neshamot ani asiti, I made souls. Okay, now who are these two souls? He says like this, Nefesh achad mitzad haklipa v'sitra achra. You have one soul that comes from the side, the opposite of holiness. I'm not going to get into the definition of sitra achra and klippa. It's a long discussion for another time. But it's generally what we refer to anything that is not holy. So it's a soul that is not, it's about self and aggrandizement. Is that the word? 1 second. It's about how you can feel. It's all your bodily needs, your need for survival. It's everything that's connected to your drives and your physical and mundane pleasures. All those type of things come from your animal soul. This is stuff that you may have heard from me or from other people in the past. And he also talks about all other types of materialistic natural drives and emotions like anger and arrogance, different pleasures that are all physical, and all our natural characteristics are all from the concept of our animal soul. They're all expressions of our animal soul. Okay? Then in the second chapter of Tanya, he goes on to explain the second soul. And he says as follows, V'nefesh hashenis b'Yisrael, the second soul of the Jew, hi chelik elika mimal mamish. It's a part of Hashem from above, literally. Now, this is a statement that comes from, as it here he says in the context, it actually comes from Job, from Eov. And it says, a part of God above, chelik elika mimal. And this is brought later on by many different authors. But what the word that the Alter Rebbe emphasizes over here, almost like novelizes, it says this is not a, he adds the word mamosh, which means that it is truly or literally, it's not just in theory a part of God, it's literally a part of God, the godly soul. And he goes on to bring a few proofs for this concept. Now, we're not going to look at all the proofs. He brings Kabbalistic proofs to show us that it comes from God. And he goes on to show us that the Jewish people were called the children of Israel, and when it came to the creation of Adam, it says that God blew from into his nostrils. Adam's soul came from the blowing, and then the Zohar claims when you blow, it's coming from your essence. So that's the godly soul. We're not going to get into more details about how we have all the proofs. But the question is like this. When you look at those two texts and those two souls, which one is more you? So let's backtrack a moment. When you looked at chapter 29, it seemed to say you are your animalistic soul. When you look at the chapter 1 and 2, it tells you, no, you have two souls. You're made up of two souls. So my question to you, are you a person that sometimes does something wrong? That's my question. The answer probably would be yes. Unless you're an absolute tzaddik, you sometimes do things wrong. So therefore, according to chapter 29 of Tanya, we would say the soul that you most relate to, or the soul that you most are inclined to feel most of the time, is your animalistic soul. So chapter 29 says if you're a person that is not a tzaddik, in other words, you sometimes do something wrong, or you have some type of mundane and materialistic drives or yearnings, you are a normal person. And that means you mainly relate to the human physical world. And therefore you will mainly feel your physical drives, and you will say, I am my animal soul. But the truth is, the Rebbe taught us something different. Now I couldn't find the text online, so I won't be able to share with you. I'll just tell you about some of them outside. The Rebbe says that when the Alter Rebbe said that in chapter 29 you are an animalistic soul, he was referring to the way we feel. But the truth is, that's not who you really are. Why? Because the thing about your animal soul is that it comes for when you are alive in the world. When does your animal soul come? Your animal soul, your godly soul, let's look at these two souls for a moment. Your godly soul always exists. Your animal soul doesn't always exist. It is there to take care of your physical needs and you as a person in the physical world. Your godly soul always exists. So therefore the question now is, who is the true you? Who are you? So if you were to define yourself based on what you do, you would be defining yourself as an animalistic person, or a mundane person if you want to be more polite. A person that is uninterested in mainly materialistic things. Because most of our days we spend on materialistic things. Unless you like certain people, I'm not going to mention who, that spend hours a day learning and doing kindness and who knows what. But I'm saying most of us we think about materialistic things all day. So the Rebbe says, what happens if you're a person that thinks about materialistic things all day? Does that mean that you're not a godly person, you don't have a godly soul, or that your godly soul is not you? So he says no. He says the godly soul was there way before your animal soul. Your godly soul is going to live before you're born and after you're born. It's going to exist the whole time. And therefore, I'm telling you, says the Rebbe, that the real you is really the godly soul. Because that has a continual life, or an everlasting life. It's an infinite life. The part of you which is interested in mundane and materialistic things is temporary. So the Rebbe, yes, no.
The text seems to imply the opposite. The text seems to imply that you're born with the animalistic soul, and then you were given the godly soul. As in he gave it to Adam in Apach B'Apos, so he gave it to him after. So it seems to imply he was born, or we're born with animalistic soul, and only then we got the godly soul. That's just seems
that seems to imply exactly. And that's exactly what the Rebbe was coming to negate. That the explanation of that is that it implies that it seems to be saying, like Noach says, it says, "All I gave you the godly soul." And so, therefore, he says, because, and this person, me as a mundane person, as a regular person, I feel as though my godly soul is an add-on, is a given thing. It's something which is extra to me. But it's almost as though I can go my entire life living without knowledge of my godly soul. That's the way I can feel. So the Rebbe says this, so how do you answer a person that has spent their entire life and they've gone through life and they haven't ever put on tefillin, or they've never learned Torah, they've never experienced Judaism properly. They've spent their whole life living a life where they wake up, they eat, they sleep, they build a family, they do all these type of things, which are good things. But they don't necessarily do anything that is particularly godly, particularly spiritual. So what would you say to that type of person? Would you say to that person that that person has left a life which is without spirituality or without godliness in it? So he says this. He says the truth is that that person simply does not know about their godly soul. But the thing about it is that godly soul is there constantly trying to make an appearance and trying to express itself. The difference is that by us as normal people, the way God does it is He gives us an animal soul and He makes us feel as though the real world is the mundane physical world, is the world that we're living in. That's the way He makes us feel. But when you tap in and you look deep into what you're doing, and you go beyond the surface, and He says, the fact that the person wanted to make money. So some people, they want to make money just because they want to do bad things with it. Very few. Majority of people that want to, for example, make money, or that they want to eat a meal, or they want to do something, is because they're looking to do something meaningful with that. Meaningful, and therefore you see that even though they're spending most of their time going after physical things, going after mundane things, the deeper reality behind that is a search and a need for a connection to something higher. Why? Because that's who they are. The difference is they spend their entire life searching for God, but in the mundane world. That's the difference. So who are you, says the Rebbe? And this is the way we understand it. You are truly a godly soul. Oh, but I've spent most of my life only invested in physical things or searching for physical things. No. You're not looking for the physicality inside of them. You're not looking to just get drunk and have a good time. You were hoping to achieve something with all this. Deeper down, there was a yearning for something greater. The deeper meaning of all your struggles, and this is, and you look, oh, okay, maybe for present company, people that have come to the shiur, maybe it talks about them. But the guy down the street that has never stepped in, no, that person as well. If you could find a way to tap deep down, what you would find is that even that individual is a part of God that's yearning for spirituality. And this is a major paradigm shift. It's a major twist to the way we see things. Because if I say that everything that I'm doing, oh, I'm a greedy person because I want money, or I'm a selfish person because, I don't know, I'm just so involved in my physical pleasures, or and we start to define ourselves in that way, what that causes to happen is we forget that the truth is we created beings by God for a mission. And if we know that, hold on a second, I'm actually truly a godly person that was created and placed in this world, and the reason why God does this to us is that He wants us to spend time going beyond the surface. The physical world, what we mean is it's just a cover-up. Well, we're able to achieve the soul. The most famous question in Hasidut Chabad, in Hasidus, is one question, keeps on repeating itself. And the answer keeps on returning, but in different ways, but always the same answer, just different elements of that answer. From my experience in studying Hasidut, the most commonly asked question is, Lama Yorda Neshama L'Guf, which means, why did the soul descend down to the body? The soul is who I am. I'm a soul. What's a soul? A soul is a part of God. A soul is something spiritual. And it comes down into a physical body, which is involved, and then it's going to say, this poor soul that only really cares about spirituality and godliness and wants to just do what is right. Now it comes to in a body, then the body doesn't care what's right so much. The body cares about living a good life. The body cares about having a good time, having pleasure, feeling good. That's what the body cares about. And being right is almost secondary. What's right and what's the true purpose and my true calling becomes secondary to my soul, to who I truly am. So the question in Chassidus is, then, if this is who I am, why did God put me in this world? So why am I here? God could have left me up above. In other words, God, what up above doesn't mean 500 miles above the surface of the earth or 5 million miles above the surface of the earth. That's what up above means. Somebody once asked me, if we have ships that are strong enough, will we be able to find heaven? And of course the answer is, as far as you go, you'll never reach heaven, because heaven is right here. A discussion once again for another time, but I just wanted to make sure that we understand that. Spirituality is just within this world but beyond this world. It's not physical space. Space and distance is only within the physical world or physical universe. So those spiritual worlds are happening right here. So the question is, if my soul was living a blissful life where it lived in tune with its calling, with who it is, why did it have to come down here? So that's the question. And the answer is because obviously there's certain things it could only achieve here that it couldn't just achieve there. So let's get back a step back a moment. We start off our shir tonight with asking who are we? And we discussed that if we define ourselves by what we do, then that's describing what we've done or what we do, but it's not describing who we are. It's a false definition. Then I went on and I brought you a video of the Rebbe, where the Rebbe showed that he kept on pushing people beyond their comfort zone, way beyond their comfort zone, and was never satisfied. Yet he didn't make the person feel unappreciated, or he didn't act like he was ungrateful. What did he do? What was he trying to achieve? What he was trying to achieve is to show just how infinitely powerful you are. What the Rebbe was trying to reveal to us, and he did this through all these talks, by the way, this is 100% his talks. There we saw the Rebbe in action. But the teachings 100% fit with this. Where he would tell a person, you are a godly soul that has infinite power. And the reason why you came down to this world is because when you would come into this world and you'd say, well, why am I struggling with all these issues? I have to worry about taking care of my family and my health, and to worry about what people say and what they do and my job and all the issues of this world. Why? And the answer is because that will allow you to reveal a much deeper part of your godly soul that you can't reveal when it doesn't get covered up and concealed. In other words, when you don't see who you really are, that's the cover-up. You feel yourself as being something mundane or physical. The very fact that people could even think that they don't have a soul shows you how strong that cover-up, that concealment is. Right? People can actually, and they could think that this world is all that you get, and they focus their entire life on worldly things. But when people have the ability to stop and say, no, there's something beyond this world, I can tap into something greater, then what they do is they achieve something that their soul could not have achieved had it not come into this world. And that's why the soul has to come into this world, to reveal who it is. Because it's all good and fine for you to be a godly soul up there in heaven doing good acts, acting all pious and holy, when there's nothing stopping you, when there's nothing getting in your way, when there's no distractions. But try doing it when you don't even see the God yourself, but you know that it's there. This is the difference. When you know that who you are, all you need to know is who you are. And you stop saying, oh, I'm bad. Or you wouldn't even say, I'm good. Because it's not, you cannot put any defining words onto who you really are. You recognize that what I am is beyond description. It's beyond limitation, beyond any type of box that I could put myself. And that's why we struggled at the beginning. When I said, tell me who you are, you said, I can't box myself. I can't do it. The only way I can do it is I can tell you what I do. That's because you are an infinite being. You see, what we did at the beginning is we showed, you see, Freud tried to say that a man is just, he's got an id, he's got this drive and he's just interested in pleasures, in sexual pleasures or other pleasures. And he's just trying to find ways to fulfill those pleasures. So then, if that was the case, when I asked you at the beginning of the class who you are, you should have said, I'm a lustful being. And that would have fit with chapter 29 in Tanya. From that superficial explanation, you would have said, look, I'm just a lustful, physical, pleasure-seeking being. And some people think that about themselves. But you didn't say that. You said, no, I can't box myself in. Because that's not who I am. I have infinite abilities. Because what you ultimately recognize is who you are is far greater than your physical, than your flaws and your physical pleasures and drives and yearnings. Because you recognize that deep down there's something which is far greater than the way you feel like at times, or the way people define you. Now, this concept keeps on repeating itself in different ways in Chassidut. And a few months ago, I brought a story that the Rebbe brings. He has a few sikhs on the subject. And do you remember when I brought the story of Bilga Bas Miriam, the girl that took a shoe and hit the altar, and she joined the Greeks? Do you remember that story? Okay, give me 1 minute. I want to see if I can get the video to work. Sorry, 1 second. No, 1 second. Sorry, I'm just trying to find the video. Can you hear? You can hear?
Yes.
He was born a Jew. That means he's not only Shassis Yiddish guy, he is a Jew, and that is his essence. You must only reveal it by removing the dirt or the shame that is covering it up. And that depends on his relatives, and especially brother or sister or sister-in-law. That means
yeah, okay, 1 second. I need to change the sound settings. Okay. I'm going to show you one last video and then I'm going to explain something and we'll stop. It's always already 9 o'clock. Give me a moment.
That accept them. All of his grave to justify.
No. Sorry, I've got the wrong video. Sorry. It's not there. Okay. Well, I'll try to tell you the story because I've mentioned it a few times, but it's one of my favorite stories. I'll just share it again. In conclusion. The story is about, I actually bought the Talmud on this. Actually, I think I shared the Talmud on this. But in short, the story was about a girl named Miriam Bas Bilga. And the story was that her descendants, there was named the Bilga family, that they were Kohanim. And they were somewhat mistreated. And the descendants or the relatives of people that were from that family, those Kohanim were mistreated. And the Talmud asks, why were they mistreated? And it's told, they say because of their relative ancestor, that in the time of the Greeks, she married a Greek and she came back with the Greeks and she took her shoe and she banged the altar. And she cried on the altar, "Fox, fox." Now the Rebbe asks a really powerful question on this. And he says, I don't understand. Here you have a girl that married out of Judaism and she joined the enemies of the Jewish people. And what are we giving her a hard time? Because she disrespected the altar. So the Rebbe changes it. This whole story, people always understood, is that, she disrespected. The Rebbe said, no. The Talmud wasn't coming to teach us that. What the Talmud was coming to teach us is that even a girl that goes away from her roots and joins the enemy and starts making trouble, the truth is that on the surface she may appear like a troublemaker, like a rebellious individual, like a person that's there to make trouble. But the truth is, what do you see? What happened? She came back with the Greeks and she took her shoe and she started crying out to God, God, you're like a fox. You're just consuming the sacrifice of the Jewish people, but you're not taking care of them. And she cries on behalf of the Jewish people. So the Rebbe said what the Talmud seemed to people, what people thought, or the way people superficially understood it, is here was a girl that was a troublemaker, and because she was a troublemaker, that's why her family was somewhat disrespected or had these issues. The Rebbe said, no. The Talmud was coming to teach us something else. The Talmud was telling us that even a girl that has gone and joined the enemy side and has rebelled, she will never stop caring about what's really right and really true. Deep down, yes, she was just searching for truth. She may have gone a bit astray. But truth is that deep down she's searching for a deeper way to connect to Hashem. And in that Jewish environment that she found herself, she for whatever reason couldn't do it. But when she was faced with a task where she saw the Jewish people suffering, she didn't cry about the Greeks. She joined in the praise and the cries of the Jewish people. And she cried out to God, and she questioned God, how can you do this to your people? What did that reveal? That revealed that beyond the surface and all those rebellious kind acts was really a person that was deeply connected to Hashem, deeply spiritual, and wanted a much better life for herself and her people, and wanted godliness to be more revealed in the world. Not some person that's just a troublemaker. And that's the lesson that we have to remember for ourselves. If we can remember that at times we feel as though we are just individuals that are no good, that we want things that are no good. Stop for a moment and say, no, yeah, I have those moments, but that's not who I really am. You know, the person that was the best at this was the Levi Yitzchak of Bardichev. There's many stories, but I'll just tell you one story about him. He once met somebody that was Yom Kippur, and the man was busy eating on Yom Kippur and smoking in the middle of Yom Kippur. He comes up to the man and he says to the man, "Tell me, you obviously must not know that today is Yom Kippur." So the guy says, no, I know today's Yom Kippur. So he says, maybe you don't know that you're not supposed to eat and smoke on Yom Kippur. He says, no, I know that you're not supposed to eat and smoke on Yom Kippur. So he turned around and he says, God, you see the holiness of this person. I gave him so many opportunities to lie and he would not lie. He has a very deep and spiritual soul. And one more last story, just a short story. The fourth Chabad Rebbe, the Rebbe Marash, had a chassid that was a diamond dealer. He was a very, very, very wealthy individual, and he was also a very learned individual and pious person. And every year he would find the nicest diamond that he had bought, that so to speak part of his collection. He would find his nicest diamond and give it as a present to the Rebbe as a donation, that the Rebbe should be able to use it towards his charities. To give it to and that was his way of. So the one year he comes and he tells the Rebbe, this year I wanted to. Sorry, I'm messing up the story. He's waiting in line for his turn to have his private audience. He's a well-known learned chassid. And he's waiting and waiting and waiting. And after a long time, an hour or two, a very simple, poor individual walks out. And he knows this person. So he's poor, he's very simple, not very learned. He comes out and he's a little bit like, this guy spent so much time with the Rebbe gave him so much time. Anyway, goes into the Rebbe, and he tells Rebbe about his trips, and he was upset. He didn't say anything. He stayed for a few weeks, and the way it would work is they would go to the Rebbe at the beginning and at the end. At the end of his stay by the Rebbe, he went back into the Rebbe's thing, and he gave the Rebbe his nicest diamond, and he says to the Rebbe, do you see the beauty of this diamond? Do you see how beautiful it is? And the Rebbe says, no, I don't see it. I don't see what's so special about this diamond. So he says, no, so take it to the light and look at this direction, look at that. See how unique and how well it's cut. It's just something remarkable. I've never seen a diamond like it. So, I don't know. I don't understand. And then he says, no, Rebbe, you have to be a maven. You have to be somebody that understands diamonds. And the Rebbe turned to him, and the Rebbe knew about how he felt about the time that he had spent a long time with a simple person. And he says, of neshamas darf man oichet sein a maven. Of souls, you also have to be a maven. The Rebbe understood about the diamond, what was special. But he says, just like you are a maven in diamonds and you see what's special, not everyone sees what's so special about this stone versus that stone. A stone is a stone. But a soul, just because a soul may seem on the outside that, oh, what does he do? Does he make money? Does he learn it? Does he that? Oh, do you understand the soul? Do you understand the depth of the soul that is there? That's what we have to understand. that we also have those deep souls. We also have those special souls. And it's our job to reveal that in ourselves. And when we are able to reveal it in ourselves and to acknowledge that, that's when we'll be able to reveal it in our children and our families. That's what gives us that strength. Because if we don't know about it, we're not aware about it in ourselves, of our own infinite potential, how are we going to reveal it in our children and in our families? So L'chaim, I want to give us a blessing that we should truly recognize the incredible souls of who we are, the infinite potential, and not only just realize that potential, but actually live up to that potential and bring it into fruition and help others see it in themselves as well.
Amen.
Okay. If anybody has any questions, you're welcome to ask.
A great show. Thank you.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Thank you, Rabbi. That was, I know a person like that.
Thank you. Thanks, Aya.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you. Bye.
Chodesh Tov, Laila
Chodesh
Tov.
Tov. Chodesh Tov.
Good month.
It's Rosh Chodesh Adar. Have to be joyous and happy.
Yes. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Have a good night.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Laila Tov.
Laila Tov.